I'm here to tell you this is it. The world as you know it is over, completely done. Okay? It's not about to be over, it's over.
Why does it feel like everyone is trying to scare us with AI? We're constantly being bombarded with warnings that AI is going to change everything about our lives, from the way we work, how we find purpose, even to the way we find love. And all those things are probably at least partially true, but none of those warnings come with instructions on how to use AI to future-proof ourselves from this impending doom. Or worse, avoid ending up in the permanent underclass. So naturally, we feel a little stuck. What does that feel like? Imagine you're stranded in rough, anxious, deep-sea waters, waves crashing in from every direction. You're exhausted, fighting just to keep your balance as the vessel beneath you rocks violently. That vessel is your understanding of life, the framework you've slowly built over years, maybe even decades, to make sense of how the world works and how to navigate your path through it. And suddenly, another wave strikes. A new AI model is released, another breakthrough, another set of capabilities you didn't see coming. Each update unleashing a surge of new agentic tools. Along with it, a new cluster of waves rolling towards you. And every time this happens, it feels like it might be the one that finally flips the boat. The water around you is black and unforgiving. No shoreline, no map, just chaos. But somewhere in the distance, a faint light emerges. A hero emerges from the sea, fully fitted in the latest AI trends. He's part man, part robot, part lobster Mac Mini, I guess. As ridiculous as he looks, the wisdom he offers is truly impactful. It is the life-saving advice needed to feel inner calmness again. No more ocean storms. So what did this hero say? To boil it down to a few lines, AI is nothing to be feared, and the future doesn't belong to people who just use AI. It belongs to people who build and leverage agentic systems that do things to give them superpowers. Powers like handling workflows that do the work of a 100-man company, operating marketing engines that pull in millions of eyeballs at 1,000th the cost of what that would take to do today, and assist in development goals, giving non-coders the ability to generate full-scale applications. So the real question isn't, is AI going to change everything? The real question should be, how the hell am I going to build with it, and what should I build? This is why we're going to break down how we're taking advantage of this opportunity. Step by step, we will go through how we apply the most advanced agentic tools ourselves to completely overhaul how we manage and operate our businesses, ultimately to chase the grand prize of $1 billion agentic startup. Seriously, that is our target. Sam Altman predicted a solo company using AI will eventually hit that target a few months ago.
I think it is probably possible now to start a company that is a one-person company that will go on to be worth like more than $1 billion, and more importantly than that, deliver an amazing product and service to the world. And that is like a crazy thing. You have access to tools that can let you do what used to take teams of hundreds.
So we figured, why not us with 7 people with access to these same tools? So we're going for it. Those who follow along with us will get the firsthand view of how AI can transform your ability to capture value in the future economy, the one that so many are trying to make you fearful of. Luckily, we have our own superhero lobster robot AI guru with us in-house, so he'll be our guide, keeping us afloat throughout this journey. So if you're tired of all the AI fear-mongering and looking to jump in headfirst into this new AI age, join us in the dojo. Let's get started.
Okay. All right, let's get into this. So we're talking about $1 billion agentic startup.
Is that too big of a target, dude? What do you think?
Well, I've been using the technology for a number of months now, and I think it's completely reasonable.
Yeah, I agree. If you've been following us, over the last many of years, definitely setting our targets high isn't like out of character.
No, that's definitely us.
Whenever we first discovered the metaverse as a paradigm, we're like, dude, you know what? We should like really try and solve some big problems here, right?
Otherwise, it's not interesting.
To us, at least.
Yeah.
And hopefully to anybody watching this.
Yeah.
I think you want to see people going for the big kahuna, right?
Yeah.
Swinging for the fences, if you will. Who wants to see like the bunt?
No.
You know,
We're not here for bunts, dude.
No, we're here for home run scores, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's what the world needs to see is like a home run, leveraging the agentic capabilities to its maximum potential. Because from my point of view, that's that's kind of missing. You know?
Yeah, and online you'll see everybody talking about agents and zero human companies and all that stuff. And to a certain extent, they're exaggerating, but to another extent, they're almost accurate.
Okay, well, help us get this journey started, dude, because you definitely have the best context as far as like, you know, because you've been warning us for years.
Yeah.
Since maybe even pre-ChatGPT, but definitely once ChatGPT came,
Yeah.
you were like, okay, guys, we need to like fundamentally like reshift how we do everything or how we think about the world. I promise you it's going to change everything. And it was like, yeah, it's cool.
It's just another search engine.
You know, I like chatting with it. I see,
Yeah.
but I'm not really spooked yet. You know? But then this OpenClaw thing came out and it really changed pretty much everything, right?
Yeah. So we have a timeline of that.
Yeah.
And before we had ChatGPT, we had like the regular internet. We had pretty good interfaces.
Mm-hmm.
And software acted as interfaces to execute predefined functions. So it was a matter of updating your interfaces to kind of fit with the times. And you, if you were around in the 1990s, you saw these interfaces and you compare them now, I mean, they're ugly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Then ChatGPT came out, and all of a sudden we sort of kind of reverted from user interfaces to just like almost a command line interface.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was okay with it. But it was because you were chatting with at the time, a super intelligent thing, right? You never really spoke to a computer,
Right.
right? And it spoke back. Like that wasn't a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was interesting is that, okay, we're going back to CLI, command line interfaces, but we're going back to just the English language,
Yeah.
right? That was the big deal for ChatGPT. But then a few months ago, everyone got access to OpenClaw.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when ChatGPT came out, I said, this isn't a big deal until it gets into the operating system.
I do remember that. Yeah.
And then OpenClaw came out, and I heard about it, you know, mid-January, and I installed it, I'm running it, and I knew instantly this is as close to AI in your operating system as it's going to get, unless it comes from Apple or Google or Microsoft, right? This is the best it's going to come, right?
Yeah.
So I installed it, and I was like, guys, this is actually something different. Like, the world is different now than it was the day before.
Yeah, but what was your instinct then? It's like, okay, now that I understand this is a different thing, how did you instinctively decide what to do with it? Like, how do I capture the value of this new thing and like give me immediate results?
Yeah, I think the more important question is like, how did you know that this was something important? Like, how did you know? Like, what was it about the thing and installing it that gave you that sort of inclination? And it's really hard to kind of pinpoint what it is. But you look at this chart and you see the star history between OpenClaw versus React versus Linux, and you see like a straight line up, and it's completely lapsed these two technologies.
Yeah.
And right now it's sitting at 300,000, and there's actually 8 more repositories on GitHub that have more stars, but they're really focused on coding.
Yeah, and they're not that much further ahead.
They're not that,
you
maybe
can-
like 100,000 left, and then you've surpassed them.
So it's highly likely you're going to see OpenClaw at number 1.
Yeah, I think we will.
Yeah. So
And so this tells you something. It's like, there's something here. And so the whole point of this video is to figure out exactly what do you do with this stuff.
yeah, how should we respond, dude? You know, again, and not in like a AI fearful way, right? Because a lot of people are just like, you know, if you already don't have like $1 million ARR AI business by now, you're just cooked. You should give up.
Yeah.
Right. Like just flee to the mountains.
Yeah, you're permanent underclass.
Yeah, but you know, people I think are sick of hearing that. So, you know, we're kind of approaching this from a different perspective because we already have like a background of, you know, we're playing the game.
Yeah.
We're in there trying to basically the game is build products, solve problems until you arrive at some sort of product market fit.
Yeah.
And that is like the journey of an entrepreneur on earth, right? It's already it's been going on for as long as time has been going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, a new shift has now injected itself into that journey.
That's right.
And so it's like we need to figure out how to refactor our own personal livelihood practices, business practices, whatever, around this new inflection point, right? So
yeah, so there's a path you have to take. You can just ignore it, right?
Yeah.
You could just ignore when the internet first came out. You just ignore the internet. You can start a business and just kind of forget doing
Yeah.
websites,
it's true.
right? So you could just ignore the AI tools and your productivity stagnates. It stays the same, right? And your competitors just basically outproduce you because they are taking advantage of the agentic economy or agentic technology, I should say.
Yeah, in today's age. But yeah, back in the internet days, it'd be like deciding not to spin up a website for your business, and
Yeah.
therefore like your reach is severely limited.
That's right.
It's like why are all my competitors generating more money than me?
Yeah.
Well,
And
because they're
then
tapped in actually.
and then the next era of the internet is like maybe I'm going to ignore the whole social media thing too.
True. Yeah, that's just for kids.
Yeah, that's right.
Stupid millennials. That was us, dude. We grew up on that
That's
stuff,
right.
right?
That's right.
But yeah, now I don't know if you've seen the White House like socials accounts, they're fully leveraging this.
Super interesting what they're doing.
It's pretty interesting stuff. It's
Yeah.
quite an intern they got over there. But
Yeah.
yeah, now we're in a new age, right?
Yeah, so adopting agentic systems, productivity explodes, and the ultimate outcome is build businesses faster.
Right. So again, we're on that quest already, so it's like it's a no-brainer which path we chose, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If this is going to elevate us to some sort of capacity, because it's what everybody's telling us that AI's, what it will do if you apply it. So we're running this real-time experiment and we're broadcasting the whole thing so that we're adding like validity to those claims, because a lot of them are like, hard to really quantify how real they are.
Yeah,
So-
and the only way to know is to actually get your hands on this stuff.
Yeah.
Right, because you can't really just listen to us or listen to any other YouTuber about how agents are going to change the world. But you actually have to install one of these things and get your hands on it and start
Yeah.
experimenting, because you don't really understand the bounds of this thing, because it like, for example, our computers we use every single day. We're on these things all day, every day, but largely we're not using the capacity of these machines. Right? Largely, they're just sitting there in the same way that when you purchase a car, it sits there 99% of the time. And once it could drive itself and pick up people, now it's like productive. And so now apply that logic to the computer. If you put an agent in your computer, all of a sudden it can use 100% capability of your computer.
Yeah.
And so that's what agents bring. So the problem, AI tools exist, but no startup blueprint. So now that I know that I can essentially inject this intelligent being into a computer, what are you supposed to do with that?
Yeah.
And so that's the problem that we're solving here. So where do I start? What agents do I use? How do I structure workflows? And then how do I scale to reach profitability?
Yeah, so this is kind of like cornerstones of, what we're going to be introducing down the line, right? As this is basically like a continual effort to kind of unlocking these, as of right now, probably a lot of confusion out there in the world as far as like, how do I actually partake in this?
Yeah. And this is a very different way of thinking too, because once you stand everything up and you have all these systems completely automated, you'll quickly find out that things break. As soon as an app updates,
Yeah.
it could break your entire chain of like production, and then you got to go and figure it out. And the agent will do a pretty good job of that, but you need to be on top of it. And then once you have everything working, later on, there's going to be new apps that make your production line better.
Yeah.
And you should be continuously integrating, because if you are not doing that, your competitors are, and then you start losing ground.
Yeah, that's important, is to not be complacent just because it's like,
It's already set and done.
yeah. Or like right now, there's still some remaining friction. So it's like, I'm just going to wait around for whenever this is like fully like brute force tested by everybody else who wanted to go through this like pain stage.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm going to wait a year or two from now where everything is perfectly refined. Everybody knows which apps to use, such and such.
Yeah.
By then, you're totally,
Yeah, it's tough, because the way that I feel about this is that if you start now, you're building the foundations that with time, you're going to build on top of those foundations. And all of a sudden, you've built a castle.
Yeah.
And so if you wait to build a castle while everyone has completed their castle, I mean, you're up against quite a wall there.
Oh Lord, dude, don't say permanent underclass.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're trying to avoid here, right?
Yeah. So how do you think about this? And I think this picture says it best. Is like we have this assembly line. Thank you, Ford, for the assembly line. And you have a bunch of humans kind of operating on the assembly line, and it produces the car at the end of the line. But the innovation here was the assembly line, not the car, because this allowed for production scale of physical assets, right? And AI is no different. With AI, you're doing the exact same thing as a production line. You are putting applications and you're putting API connections between those applications, and you're allowing your AI agent to kind of string everything together just by prompting it, just by telling it. But your AI won't do it naturally.
Right.
It has to be told, right? And so you can. The meme is, hey agent, make me a millionaire. Don't make any mistakes. It's like that is a very memey thing to do.
Yeah.
It can make you a millionaire, but you need to tell it exactly what it needs to do.
Correct. Yeah, and that's where like a little bit of like the impractical perceptions are, I guess, of like, a lot of people think, or there's a lot of people out there putting out the perceptions that AI is like a set it and forget it type of thing.
Right.
Maybe it can in the future, but right now that's definitely not how it is. There is a core fundamental need for human orchestration in this entire process, right? And
yeah,
if you break down all the different pillars of value within a company or an organization, there's a lot of core tenets that need to be upheld and met and quality assured around, right? So it makes sense to keep humans in the loop in that respect.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this diagram is outlining. It's a whole new model as far as like what humans are responsible for in like a company structure, right?
Yeah. So department level human orchestrator. So this is like this is you. This is the critical role that you are instructing these agents to operate on. So there's a marketing agent, there's an engineering agent, operations, and they produce your product. And so then they also market your product, but they're not going to do anything until you tell them. So agents optimize tasks, humans optimize direction. So the new organizational structure is, instead of replacing humans, agentic companies will likely restructure around smaller teams supervising larger digital workforces. So we have a traditional company of, let's say, 50 human employees. That could definitely get you to $1 billion company for sure, right? You really don't need more than 50. And we'll show you a chart where most of the companies they're raising a lot of money, they don't have more than like 10 people, right? Roughly.
Yeah.
And so now with this agentic workforce, you can scale down that 50 human employee company to 10 and still at least match the output, but likely outproduce 50 humans.
Yeah, and it gives you a lot of advantages too, because with less people, you're more like naturally more flexible. There's less contention among humans as far as like direction and such. So it feels better in a sense. Like if you're trying to build a startup, just to like not overscale too quickly, just instead leverage these new abilities.
Yeah, and these 10 humans, you have to remember all 10 of them are leveraging these agent.
Yeah,
each one is an orchestrator of their own agents.
Exactly. Yeah. So who those 10 people end up becoming is pretty important, right?
Yeah.
They can't just be your beer buddies.
Yeah, they cannot.
I mean, unless your beer buddy is just like, a hidden savant.
Yeah, right.
You want to find people who, are equally as passionate as you are to, solving problems, finding these different product niche categories within the market, because there's a ton.
Yeah.
The opportunities are out there, right?
Yeah, so the example here is head of product direct agent pipelines for product development. We got the marketing orchestrator, manages content and distribution agents. Engineering orchestrator supervises code generation and deployment agents. Research orchestrator manages intelligence gathering agents. And then the operations orchestrator monitor analytics and performance systems. So humans become conductors of an AI orchestra.
Yeah,
which is another great analogy. It's like this is a symphony, and you are orchestrating that symphony.
Yeah. And what is symphony made up of? It's different instruments that make different sounds, but collectively they make a song, right?
That's right.
Pretty cool one. So that's it. That's what we're tasked with doing. But yeah, again, there's a lot of people out here claiming, they know the way.
Yeah.
So be cautious of this. This is a new thing. It's a new paradigm. It's It's viral in the social graph of things. So there's going to be a lot of people making, crazy claims and then trying to become, opportunists out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So as if you open up YouTube or Twitter, like you see a lot of this stuff. I mean, not exactly this, but pretty much this.
Yeah.
Is that, just run an agent, run my agent, and run it on autopilot, and you become a millionaire, right? So these sort of like large claims, and selling courses, which courses are great, and I think they really do help cut down the gap between unaware to knowledgeable. Mm-hmm. So, but a lot of these courses don't really get into the details of like what it actually takes. It just tells you about the technologies, how they work, and then it's like it's up to you to kind of piece it all together.
Yeah, so this is why we think it's valuable to do what we're doing here. Basically, essentially live demonstrating this entire process from all the way from like ideation down to full-scaled operation, leveraging these different agentic flows and loops and such, and literally pinpointing like how this is adding value.
Yes.
To the ultimate end goal, right? Therefore, you've got some semblance of like an actual proven blueprint to kind of emulate. Right?
Yeah. I mean, and really, we want to be public with how we do that because the whole purpose of this is to really demonstrate the capability of the technology. It's not going anywhere. If you're not integrating the stuff now, it's not going to go away. And so, but it's the same process. You got the idea, the startup formation, the agentic system assembly, which is the most critical part, the operational scaling, and then it gets you to revenue. So here they are, the Pollos Hermanos.
Yeah.
Did you do that intentionally?
I sure did.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what we look like when we're selling chicken, I guess.
Yeah.
But we're not selling chicken.
Right. So Sam, I mean, he's obviously the CEO of OpenAI. We will see a one-person billion-dollar company. So everything documented publicly, proof of capability, open playbook, and replicable method.
Yeah, so this is, again, he kind of like set off this challenge publicly on Earth. And a lot of people think, one person is enough. I think it can be, for sure. Maybe like in a year from now.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, so,
But doing a one-person business is cool, especially if you get it to $1 billion. But it's even cooler if you could get your team to $1 billion.
Yeah. So we've got some businesses here to kind of get things started, right?
Yeah, so Nat.fun is the one we're going to be very public with here pretty soon. The application is nearly done. It's a dual market crypto launchpad. So this is what we are doing. We're not recommending that you do the same.
Yeah.
Unless you have domain knowledge in the space, then absolutely, compete, right?
Yeah.
So what you need is the industry domain expertise, right? So if you have expertise in anything on the planet, you could agentify this to help you propagate that expertise.
Yeah.
I identify solution to industry problems such as this one. Nat.fun is a solution to the NFT market situation. NFTs are practically dead.
Yeah.
And so this is an attempt to resurrect it through a problem solution mechanic. Mm-hmm. And industry competitors with billion-dollar valuations. So we picked this specifically because we have competitors that have billion-dollar valuations.
Yeah.
Hence the attempt to be a billion-dollar company.
Yeah, it all aligns, right?
Yeah.
But just in case, because of the capability of agentic automation, you can actually incorporate other product iterations around that, which we've already identified a couple others.
Yeah. In this journey, right? So in this journey, we've identified several products that has helped us get to where we're trying to get to.
Yeah, because part of this is, again, finding the bottlenecks in your own situation.
Yeah.
One of these products is kind of like catered towards, making things more efficient from like the content production point of view, podcasting and stuff. There's a lot of work that goes into that.
Yeah.
And we've discovered a lot of AI angles to, improving how quickly we can do everything.
Yeah.
And like condense the flow of operations down to like a much smaller window.
Yeah. And one of our developers developed their own agentic system that allows him to develop multiple products at the same time.
Yeah.
And it has a really cool interface, and right now it's being used for code development, but it can be really applied to anything, right?
Yeah. So again, we'll talk more on those in future videos. But again, the main core focus is on these NFT marketplaces that are pretty widely known.
Yeah, OpenSea. I'm sure you've probably heard of OpenSea, the NFT platform. It was valued at 13.3 billion in January 2022, right? So there's a reason there was that high valuation. They were addressing a market value in terms of NFTs back in the day. And then we have today, Pump.Fun, $4 billion valuation. Memes are well known. Everyone was texting all of us about memes back when it was popping.
Yeah.
And so essentially our platform combines these two.
Yeah, basically. And so again, yeah, we're going to go much more in depth on that.fun in a future video.
Yeah, so here's the team. This is the team that we're talking about. So each member of the team has been onboarded to this whole agentic kind of concept, and we're focused on making sure the productivity for each member is what it was times 10. Right, that is the goal, and I think it can be done just because I'm actively doing it, and so it's just a matter of getting everyone up to speed as to like how you're supposed to think about this thing, because it is a different way of thinking. You do have to think kind of like an engineer. It is a production line, so what do you need in a production line? You know what the output needs to be. You got to figure out every single little piece to get that desired output.
Yeah,
and so it does take time, but once that's set up, then it's autonomous. It just runs by itself. You can produce a new production line for the marketing and for operations and for paying taxes and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So we have history with Metazone, Rovi, Mscribe, and the Natrix over the years, specifically in the crypto space. And so that's how we're able to kind of like be, have an understanding of the process it takes to actually build an application. So here are the goals. So we build and successfully launch products using AI as the main development tool, build out agentic systems for each human team member to orchestrate a network of agents to execute company tasks, generate revenue before 6 months to continue experiment toward $1 billion goal, reach the $1 billion valuation milestone to prove agentic startups can scale using mostly AI systems. We're going to take advantage of the 80-20 rule here.
Yeah, 80% automation, 20% basically human.
That's right.
Orchestration.
That's right. And then we're going to highlight this native tool that we build along the way to orchestrate the entire thing.
Yeah, so there's a lot to this, but again, it's not without this in the scope of reality, right? And here's like a leaderboard. We've talked about it before on a podcast.
Yeah.
I think it neatly packages this concept, right? These lean AI startups,
right?
That can generate a lot of revenue.
Yeah, just for example, Telegram. I'm sure most of you know Telegram. The annual revenue is about $1 billion, 30 employees, right? We have Midjourney, $500 million in revenue, 40 employees. So we're not talking about a lot of people here, right? This one has a lot. Surge AI, 110 employees.
Yeah, one of them has one, dude.
Yeah.
So that guy, Base 44, is currently in the lead as far as a
single member.
Yeah, on its way potentially to a one-person $1 billion company.
For sure, yeah.
What's their valuation at?
What is it? Annual revenue is $3.5 million. Valuation per employee is $3.5 million.
Is it blank? Yeah, is it the blank one?
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay. Well, no, it's 80 million. There you go.
Oh, right. Yeah, 80 million.
Not bad, dude. Just like a 12x away or something. And you got. So we're competing against that guy, But yeah, most of them, still have multiple team members here.
Yeah, because you could do it with one, but you'll be able to do it faster as a team.
I think so.
Right. So yeah, this is just an example of what's happening out there. There's an entire leaderboard tracking this stuff, and so if we're successful, we're gonna make it into this leaderboard.
Yeah. So that is essentially the opportunity up for grabs for everybody who is paying attention, not succumbing to the fear pandemonium around AI, because I get it. It can be intimidating. It could actually like tap into that triggered fight or flight response mode.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of things are doing that right now. The fact that there's like wars happening can also trigger into that, and just, overall economic outlooks and stuff.
Yeah.
It really taps into that inner core of like, a lot of people just want to give up, and you
Absolutely.
see that happen.
And there's a lot that stuff happens where you can't really control, and so
Yeah.
the thing that really helps me is just like I can only do what I can do, right? So I'm going to focus on the things that I can actually change. And so when it comes to this stuff, like we have some degree of control. So we can impact, you know, the direction and the outcome of, you know, our companies and like what we do in the meantime to get us to, you know, this $1 billion goal that we're trying to get to. So that's it for us. If you guys have any questions along the lines of how the agent system works, what agents should you be running, we'll definitely have a series of these videos that we're going to be outlining all those little details. And let me know what sort of technologies that you guys are into right now, as you know, starting this whole journey with this agent technology that we're implementing at the moment. And finally, if you like this video, just share it with others, and then we'll be in the Discord if you want to contact us directly. So appreciate you watching, and we will catch you in the next video.
Peace.